Hello there, this is 2 Legs Better, and in this episode, I'm going to talk about psychology, particularly children or parenting or whatever. You know, if you are, if you want to have a child, recently preparing to have a child, or you recently have a child, and sometimes you can feel overwhelmed, right? Because it's just I still remember when my son was little. I was in charge of cutting his nails. It's so tiny. The fingers are so tiny, and the nails are so soft. You just cut that, and you don't want to hurt it. It's just so fragile. Okay, but then they grow up and they become bigger, and things kind of change. Now, I want to talk from a psychology perspective and what good parenting means. And so let's just get into that, okay? So this is what we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about babies. These are the babies, and then they will grow up, right? Now, how can be a how can you be a good parent? It's just not easy because sometimes you get lost. You don't know what's happening. So I want to tell you. I want to describe a few things that's confirmed by psychology that can help you to understand. The key here actually is to you got to understand the children and how their mind works. You got to know that this is what we have. Okay, so these are the babies, right? You look at them. What really works are the brain inside their head. Okay, that's what really is. But how brain works. Now, here is a few things. So the first one is you got to understand that children need to survive. In order to survive, they got to rely on adults. For humans, we are like wildebeest. Wildebeest, after they are born, like in 10 minutes, they can run with the best of them. They can run with their parents and avoid the chase of cheetahs or something. Not all the time, but they have that ability. They can do that, but not humans. The first several years, humans are extremely vulnerable. So in order to survive, they all depend on the adults. That's their caregiver. And if you know a psychologist named John Bowlby, and he pioneered the research on attachment theories, basically the attachment between children and the parents. So now the thing is, you gotta know that's like the first basic instinct of any child. So the first thing, they need to be attached to their parents. So they are cued to any of the parents' movement or responses and things like that, and they also expect that. So if there is attunement between the caregiver and the child, and that will be great for them. What does that even mean? The attunement is that you understand what they want. If your child is smiling, you know what they want. If they are crying, you know what they want. If they just kind of make an expression, you know what they want. And I'm proud to say that me and my wife, we knew that. Uh, the first several years in my son's life, before he can talk, we always knew what he wanted. He almost never cry because we never get to that point. If he make a sound, we check. Do we need to change the diaper? Do we need to feed him, or do we need to talk to him, spend time with him, or something? So that's attunement. So that gives the child a feeling. Program the brain to think, oh, okay, my caregiver understands me. So that gives them a strong sense of connection. That's how you build connection with your child, by understanding. It's almost like a friendship. How do we define friendship? We understand each other, right? I don't need to spell out everything, and he or she already understand, and vice versa, right? So that's what friendships are. And So same for child and the parents. So you want to be their friends, you want to understand them, and you help them understand you as well. So that's the first thing. That is the connection, the attunement or attachment. So that's the number one thing, and it's attunement, attunement or attachment. You know, between parents and the children. So that's the number one thing. So the number two is that you got to understand how helpless a child is. A child is like half a meters long and they can't really move, and everybody is bigger than them, everybody is taller than them for the first you know um, dozen years. It's like everybody is taller than them, everybody is stronger than them, so they are always vulnerable. So you got to understand that they are small and they don't have any power, and that means they have a lot of fear. Okay, and sometimes parents can re-enhance that. I remember when my son was little, every time we get on the street, I will remind him. I said, walk both sides and just be careful. Until one day, I think it's like maybe around 2 years old, maybe a little bit younger than that. I told him, I said, be careful, and he said, I'm always careful. I was amazed by that. I think, wow, this is true. He is always careful. So I don't need to remind him every time I'm with him, because by reminding him, it means that I'm worried. I'm fearful, right? I don't want to reinforce that. And he actually kind of give me the feedback on that. But that being said, they are, they are afraid of abandonment. They are afraid of a lot of things, unknown, the future, and a lot of things. So fear is a big thing for children. So I, me and my wife, we are both psychology majors. So psychology professionals, whatever you call it, and we try to make sure he doesn't, he's not overwhelmed by fear. That's what we try to do. And I still remember one thing I'm very proud of myself is that when we were in Hong Kong, we sent him to a kindergarten, and he hated that. He would cry, in the morning to when he knows he go there, and he can't really wait to get back. I still remember when I go pick him up. When I open the door, he's right behind the door with both shoes in his hand and the tears in his eyes. That was really traumatic. Now, then we went out of the country. We went to England for half a year. Then we came back, and mm, you know, somebody told me that when they take him downstairs to play, they passed the kindergarten, and as soon as he saw the kindergarten, he started to cry. This is how traumatic it was. He's like 2.5 years old, and he's like, wow, okay, this is And then what I did is I just, kneel down to the ground, so my face is the same level as his face, and I told him, I said, I guarantee you, you never need to go back to there again. I guarantee you that. So you don't need to be afraid of that anymore. And that was a big assurance to him. And he was never afraid of that place anymore. He still hates that place, but he wasn't afraid anymore. So I think that's something that's a good parent should do. Make sure your child are not afraid of something. So that's the second thing. The second thing is fear. So how you manage fear, take the fear away from your child. It's a healthy dose of worry might be good, but fear is definitely not good. So, and the third one is you got to understand. The number three is that child, they tend to see the world in simpler terms. It's like it's either good or bad, and there's no between. It's like sometimes my son had a hard time dealing with the teacher, and now I had to tell them, I had to discuss with them, with him in depth, and I would say, to his mind is this teacher sucks. This teacher is the worst human being on this planet. Sometimes, most of the time, I agree with him actually, but sometimes I would just say, you got to know why they do things the way they did it, right? They design something, they expect you to follow, to help, right? To do what they designed to do. They have a goal to accomplish, and so the thing is how to get the information across to them. But it's difficult, especially for younger children. Younger children, they just, I like it, I don't like it. If I like it, it's good. I don't like it, it's bad. So that's black and white. But when they get older and older, they get more sophisticated. Then you can talk more senses into them, I suppose. But you gotta understand, younger children, they simplify the world. So they simplify the world, and you should do the same when you talk to them. At least acknowledge the way they understand the world. You can say, yeah, I see how you can come to that conclusion. I see how you feel that way. And then you can add a little bit more, but you don't force them to change how they see that, okay? And then another one, number 4, is they have a difficulty to understand other people. That's, psychologists call them egocentrism. Egocentrism is basically, we are all egocentric, okay? All of us are adults, everybody in this world are egocentric, but to some degree. And children, they generally don't have the capability to take others' perspective yet, especially for younger children. And over time, they can develop, and we can help them develop as well. We can describe it. We can say, like when I talk to my son, I would say, what if you are the teacher? Can you understand why they do the things this way? And if you are the other child, and can you understand? So those things can help, but basically still you gotta know, if they are hungry, they are hungry. They don't understand anything else. They just, I'm hungry, I'm not comfortable, I life sucks, everything sucks, So that's another thing to understand your child is the egocentrism. And the number 5 is social aspect. By social, I mean, it's basically you want your child to behave appropriately in the social settings, right? In gatherings, in front of people, in school, in public, in those things. So that's fundamentally where shame is from. So, and we usually do that to correct them and tell them that is wrong, don't do that again, and you can't do that, you can't hit your sister, you can't, so those kind of things. But the shame can be a very strong feeling, because shame means that you defied your parents who you really adore when you grow up, right? These are the gods, these are everything to you, and they tell you you did something wrong. And sometimes that's what you want to do. You want to do it, and they told you you can't, and it's your fault. So that's their thinking process. So that's shame. So this is why try to avoid shame your children in front of other people, because the damage is huge. And if you have to discipline them, take them away from the situation first, and then talk to them in private. Don't just use your power to stop them in front of everybody. It's a huge shame. It's hard to recover from that. So shame is very important, and shame is also tied to self-esteem. So that's a really sensitive issue, and all parents should pay attention to, especially when your child get older. I still remember when my son was like 1 year old, if I just abruptly say something, no, don't do that. He's really, really upset. He's like, he's really, really upset. So I noticed that, and I stopped using that. I usually, I would say, listen, and explain to them. But he learned really quick. When I say listen, he immediately know that he did something wrong, and I need to tell him something. And he was fine with it. He would listen, and most of the time he would accept. But now the times becomes less and less, right? Because he has a strong mind. But that's the point. You gotta, in a way, you gotta know they are a child. In other way, you gotta treat them as adult. Especially in public. And the world is a complicated place and can be overwhelming to children. And parents are, or guardians, or caregivers, whatever you call it, is instrumental. Is great to the children's development psychologically. So try to understand some psychology, understand the neuroscience, and understand how children's brain develop could help to make you a much better parent. And in this episode, I summarized the 5 different things. So the number 1 is that they have attachment needs, so they want to be understood by the parents. And the second one is they are small, they are tiny, they feel helpless, and they have a inherent fear. And the third one is they tend to see the world in simplified terms, so we have to deal with that accordingly. And number 4 is they are egocentric, so they can only think from their own perspective. And the empathy and the perspective taking can develop, but it takes time. So you got to understand that. And then finally, how you correct their behavior, their social behaviors. Allow them time and space, and don't shame them in public. And if you can do these things, you pay attention to these 5 things, I can guarantee you'll be a great parent. You'll be better than the 90%, maybe 99% of the parents already. So, but anyway, that's this episode. This is 2x Better. So please subscribe, and so that I can have the motivation to make more. And in the meantime, you have a great day.